मुच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
श्री कृष्णाय नमः। श्री गोपी जनवल्लभाय नमः। श्रीमदाचार्य चरण कमलेभ्यो नमः। श्री गुसाई जी परम दयालवे नमः। श्री गुरवे नमः। नमो भगवते तस्मै कृष्णायाद्भूत कर्मणे रूप नाम विभेदेन जगत क्रीडति यो यतः। बुद्धि प्रेरक कृष्णस्य पादपद्मं प्रसीदतु। ध्याना समर्थ जीवानाम अस्माकं सर्वदा स्वतः। प्रभुर्नंद कुमारो में स्वामिनी वृषभानुजा। कृतार्थोहम 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 न संशयः। यत्र योगेश्वरः कृष्णो यत्र पार्थो धनुर्धरः तत्र श्रीर्विजयो भूतिर्ध्रुवा नीतिर्मतिर्मम। आचार्य चरणद्वन्द्व नखचंद्रमरीचया स्पृष्टा ये द्रवतां यान्ति कठिना हृदयो फलाः। अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। सच्चिदानन्दरूपाय विश्वोत्पत्त्यादिहेतवे तापत्रयविनाशाय श्रीकृष्णाय वयं नमः। Welcome back to session 4 of Life Solutions in 2021, a Vedic lifestyle way. In today's session, we'll talk about morality, we'll talk about niti, we'll talk about rules, we'll talk about regulations, and we'll talk about aspects of life that are challenging, thought provoking, and last but not the least, extremely sensitive in nature. We as humans have been blessed with intelligence and expression at the same time. We can express our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions in words. Apparently, that is not the similar situation with a lot of living beings in this world. Since we can express our concerns and technology is so beneficial these days, we can call someone, we can express our grief. The person may not understand us, but at least our part of the job of expressing our concerns can be done. If you are lucky, the opposite person can understand you and at the same time address your concerns. Last but not the least, if the opposite person is far intelligent, even they can provide you with some amazing life solutions which can help you implement them in your life. Here's one situation that takes place with Dhritarashtra in Mahabharata. We will be focusing on the topic of niti. We will be talking about morality. Before we step into this entire scenario of Dhritarashtra and Vidur, let me tell you something about our scriptures. Our scriptures have been a guiding force on us, and our scriptures have been the spirit for all the Sanatan Hindu dharmis. May it be Shankaracharya, may it be Ramanujacharya, may it be Nimbark Acharya, may it be Madhva Acharya, may it be Shivallabha Acharya. Out of these 5 acharyas, 3 acharyas had their incarnation ceremony just within last 14 days. all of these 5 acharyas have accepted Ved, as we refer them as Vedas, Brahma Sutra, also known as the Vyasa Sutra, which is the philosophical aspect of the Brahma, which has some correlation with the Vedas. The next is the Bhagavad Gita. These 3 scriptures have been considered as testimony, has been considered as Shabda Praman, has been considered as the base treatise to propound any philosophy in this world. If any Sanatan Dharma philosopher wants to propound his philosophy, that person needs to go through all these 3 scriptures and then propound philosophy. One cannot just propound philosophy on the basis of own assumption and merits. Even if they can, those are certain parts of the interpretation, not the complete interpretation particularly. Because for interpretation, for darshan, we have darshan shastras, which allows us to utilize various mechanisms to interpret the philosophy which is there in our Vedic literature. In the first session, we studied more about the Vedas, Rug, Yajur, Sam, Atharva. These Vedas have been followed by Brahmans and Aranyaks. And then come the Upanishads. Maybe someday in life, we'll do one session only about the scriptures that we have. And then we'll try and understand what these scriptures are all about and what kind of deep insights about mankind and humanity is available in these scriptures. So the Veda, the Brahman, the Aranyak, and the Upanishad, 4 of these constitute as the Veda. These are called as Shruti. I'm not referring to a lady. I'm referring to something that can be heard. Shruti refers to something that is heard and remembered. And then comes the situation or the stage of Purana and Smriti. On one side, there is Shruti. On the other side, there is Smriti. Smriti refers to Smaran, which means something that you can think of, something that you can remember. So Shruti, Smriti, and then comes the Purana, the 18 Purans or the Ashtadasha Puran. It is so said, Ashtadasha Puraneshu Vyasasya Vachanadvayam Paropkaraya Punyaya Papaya Parapidanaya. Which means in the 18 Purana, Maharshi Vedavyas has said 2 wonderful statements. Benevolence can be achieved through Paropkar. That means all your punya can be achieved by doing the right acts or the good acts. And Papaya Parapidanaya refers to all the negative acts are considered to be sins. Now, actions can be negative in terms of killing someone, but killing someone in self-defense is not considered to be a negative action. Let's not get into technicalities of all of these. Try and understand the spirit behind these scriptures. I've already propounded a couple of them till now. So there are 18 Puranas. Similarly, there are 18 Upapurana. So there is this Pauranic Sahitya or the Pauranic scriptures that is there with us. Apart from that, we have Itihas. That's Mahabharat. We have Ramayana. All these scriptures have been prescribed for us to study and evolve our mentality towards being a better human being. Now, within Mahabharat, parallelly to all the Smritis, If I'm not wrong, there are more than 24 Smritis. And some time ago, I had also mentioned that there is a Smriti called as Manusmriti. A lot of people feel that Manusmriti is applicable in the current era. However, Parashar Smriti is far more applicable in the Kali Yuga. So, in case if you are listening to me, listen to this thing very carefully. Yagnavalkya Smriti and Parashar Smriti have far more implications in the practical Kali Yuga age in comparison to the Manusmriti. So, if you refer to the Parashar Smriti, you are getting the right kind of guidance, in my opinion. I'm not saying Manusmriti is wrong. Manusmriti is right. However, the application of Manusmriti is difficult in the current era, and hence Parashar Smriti needs to be considered. Now, what are these Smriti Granths all about? Smriti Granths are a great guideline for us to understand the do's and the don'ts, to understand morality, to help us grow spiritually, to help us take better decisions, to help us analyze people, situations, to be more equipped in order to face any situation that comes in our life. Similarly, there are Niti Shastras. There is Vidur Niti, there is Chanakya Niti. There are many such Niti Shastras which allows you to understand the various aspects or various components of life. There could be numerous amount of things happening. You would like to understand what's happening and how can you tackle that particular problem or challenge. And here's one challenge that is being faced by someone called as Dhritarashtra, who's king of Hastinapur. He's the father of Duryodhan, and he's a little bit troubled. And hence, midnight, he's requesting for you. He's requesting for Vidur. Vidur is considered to be really just a justified person, someone who can do justice, and he has ample amount of knowledge. And that's why Dhritarashtra is calling for Vidur at night. And Vidur is coming. Vidur is also mentioning about the situations that he is going through. Here he refers to Dhritarashtra. He says, Duryodhane Saubale Chakarne Dushasane Tatha. Over here, he's mentioning about you have entrusted the kingdom to incompetent people like Duryodhan, Shakuni, Karna, and Dhritarashtra. How do you expect glory in such a situation? How do you think they will enhance your glory as a ruler? This was a straightforward question that was being put by Vidur. And here, we will be taking some kind of learnings about what should be done, what not should be done. How can we recognize situations from this very learned person called as Vidur? If you read more about Vidur, Vidur's charitra, Vidur's characteristics, Vidur's past life, you will come to know what is the origin or who was the original form of Vidur and how Vidur has come into existence during the Mahabharata time. While Dhritarashtra and Vidur are having conversations, here's one of the major things that are being conveyed by Vidur to Dhritarashtra. Atma Gnanam Samarambha Asti Tiksha Dharma Nityata. He alone is entitled to be or to be named as a Pandit who knows his worth, who is industrious, who has the capacity to suffer, and who does not deviate from the duty under any circumstances. We want to know the definition of a Pandita? Here is how it is coming. Someone who understands his or her own form. someone who has a titiksha, who can face the situations, face any form of situations. One of the major examples of titiksha is military. Despite of glacier, despite of heat, despite of rains, the soldiers are standing still and protecting their nation, protecting their motherland, protecting their country. They're facing all forms of situation. One such mention is also given in a Subhashit, as I had said about Subhashit in the previous session. Subhashits refer to pearls of wisdom. They refer to good sayings. Subhashit. It is said, Udaye savita rakto raktaschastapan. The sun, when it rises, it is red, and while it is setting, it is red. Similarly, even if there is sampatti or vipatti, that means even if there is prosperity or there are problems in life, a person who stays still is considered to be a pandit. Someone who doesn't get excited or elated because of the success that he is facing, and someone who is not scared or doesn't lose or doesn't give up in the situations of trouble, such person is called to be a pandit. And over here, someone who is not deviating from his or her own duty is considered to be a pandit. Nishevate prashastani nindantani na sevate anastikah shraddadana etat pandita lakshanam. A pandit who always acts admirably, that particular person will shun all the evil activities. He believes in God and worships with devotion. Someone who is an astik, someone who has shraddha, someone who has devotion, someone who has faith, someone who's always engaged in doing good form of activities, and someone who's going away from the bad activities. Today, I uploaded a video on Instagram seeking what kind of questions you guys have about Vedic lifestyle. And someone gave me a wonderful question. The question was, how do you deal with self-doubt? Here's a major understanding about how do you deal with your own self-doubts. First of all, you should be industrious in nature. That means you should be in a capacity to perform the acts. You should not be worried about the results. You should not be thinking about whether this will turn out to be good or this will turn out to be bad. You should not be focused on what the end outcome is going to be. Rather, you should be focused and you should be performing your own duty. While you're performing your duty, try not to get distracted by the situations that come by. I understand we are humans, we may get distracted, but that's what we are supposed to practice. Honestly speaking, even I had a bad day yesterday. I even texted people that, you know what, I have too many things to complete. I got some good solutions as well. But for once, even I felt I'm not being able to trust this situation. I'm not being able to trust your solutions. Or possibly I have too many arguments that maybe I want to just rant out about it. To which, after a certain time of reflection, doing certain stage of work, I went back to the situation. I asked, was I clear about what I wanted? The answer was no. We weren't sure what you wanted. I was like, fair, it's my problem. It's my set of expression which went incorrect. And over there, I realized, if you let your empty mind wander, it is going to create problems. It starts overthinking because it doesn't have something to do. Moreover, it doesn't have something that you love to do. And that is one of the most crucial things that humans that we need to know. Once you start doing something you love, you start accepting yourself, you start improving yourself, you start taking charge of your situation. You don't deviate away from your duties under any circumstances. You are focused at your work, you have some faith, you try to connect, you try to develop a connection with the with the source of this universe. That's what Astik is all about over here. Astik refers to someone who believes in God. Now, that God may have a shape, may not have a shape. At least I believe in having a shape. Some of you may not be believing in having a shape, but that's absolutely fine. Agni, you can't define a shape of Agni. Agni is always changing its shapes. But yet Agni is being prayed. Here, Astik refers to someone who has that positive approach towards connecting with the source of the universe. And someone who has that faith, someone who has that devotion. A lot of things, at least in Pushti Marg, the path of school that I belong to, we talk a lot about surrender. We talk a lot about Atma Samarpan. We talk a lot about Sharanagati. We talk about reconciliating ourselves again and again and again and reminding our own self that we have surrendered completely. All our problems, all our stresses, all our wealth, everything is being surrendered. The owner is the Lord. We are just a trustee handling on behalf of Him because He's given us this particular life to live, and we have to make the most out of it. And hence, to answer that one question, how do you know your self-worth, or how do you take care of your self-worth? It's only when you're focused, when you're doing your things right, when you shun away evil activities, you're not falling into bad traps of bad companies, you're not into evil habits, you're not cheating on people, you're true to yourself. You are understanding the difference between good and bad, or possibly things that are beneficial for people and things that are not beneficial for people. You start understanding what is the bigger picture in life, that life is beyond certain set of materialistic things. When all of these things start coming your way, you start getting these realizations. That's the time where your self-worth is going to increase. It's not just from a standpoint wherein you start improvising your relationship with people, but also when you start getting Atmagnan, Atmagnana Samarambha. When you start being entitled, when you start getting your own current self, when you start understanding yourself, is when you won't face this problem of self-doubt. While we are trying to know ourselves, a lot of our emotions will come and hamper us. According to psychology, you are absolutely in a good capacity to feel these emotions. You should acknowledge these emotions. You should never suppress these emotions. However, you should not let these emotions start overpowering you. And that's exactly one of the concepts that have been mentioned over here. Krodho harshascha darpascha rihi stambho manyamanita. A pandit is not diverted from the path of duty, his dharma, by his emotions of anger, joy, pride, shame, obstinacy, and false sense of superiority. Is it saying that you shouldn't face emotions? Absolutely not. You should be acknowledging your emotions, whatever you're feeling. You're facing krodha, that's anger, joy, that is harsha, darpa, that's pride, hri, shame. All of these feelings you should feel. No one is abstaining you or stopping you from feeling emotions. However, any of these feelings, if they start affecting you, that's the time you need to reflect yourself. You need to work on that. And that's exactly what a pandit will do. He'll never let the krodha, harsha, garva, lajja, or maybe arrogance, uddandata, as we say, or maybe the false sense of superiority, that superiority complexion, that I know something, I am something, starts affecting this particular person. It is said, Vidya vinayena shobhate. Your knowledge is actually appreciated, it's adorned, it looks amazing, it suits you when you're more humble. And personally, even I have learned this lesson by observing some great leaders in the past. They know a lot of things, but they're extremely quiet, they're extremely calm, they have composure. And hence, Vidur says some amazing statements. Yasya krutyam na jananti mantram va mantritam pare krutamevasya jananti sa vai pandita uchyate. We call him a pandit. Whom do we call a pandit? Whose activities are not known to others. When that is considered or advised, but only when that succeeds. Sounds complicated, but let's try and simplify. When other people are trying to give you advices, they're trying to guide you, they're trying to give you directions, even before any of these situations come, you start walking your path, you start striving towards achieving your goal, you're taking those baby steps uh, towards the goal that you've decided. You are doing everything possible in your capacity so that you can achieve it. Let's take an example. For like, I have to reduce weight. You have to maybe learn how to recite some Sanskrit verses, or possibly you are supposed to finish a book, or maybe you are supposed to get some diet control, or you are supposed to finish some tasks on your office. Now, over here, people who don't wait, I'm not saying that they are impatient. I'm not saying that they are not ready for with the brief, or I'm not saying that they don't want to listen to anyone. No, no, that's not the situation. But these guys are not the ones who delay. They live in the moment, they live in the present, and they take the opportunity. They don't wait. They don't wait for someone who does something. For example, I'll give you a situation. Mahaprabhu Sri Vallabhacharya ji had a disciple, had a sevak. He was a great Brahmin, and eventually he quit his practices as Brahmin, and he took up soldiery. He became a soldier over the period of time. One day, Sri Acharya Charan came out of his house and saw a big stone lying on the path. He said, if this stone is not there in the path, then it will be beneficial for the Vaishnavas. A lot of other Vaishnavas were thinking, we have worn good clothes, oh, what will happen to us, etc., etc. That soldier Vaishnav, he ensured, despite wearing his own uniform, he ensured that the stone was removed from the path. And after certain times, when Sri Mahaprabhuji Sri Vallabhacharya is coming back, that stone is not there. And that was one of the most beautiful things. And since the stone was not there, one could understand how quick was that Vaishnav, that he didn't even wait for anyone else. He didn't wait for anyone else doing his or own kartavya. He didn't wait for someone to do their karma. He did his own karma. He didn't wait for any guidance. He didn't wait for other people's thoughts. For a matter of fact, he finished the work and then heard people. Such people are called as Pandit. Now, that doesn't mean you're supposed to be brainless and not listen to people and do whatever the hell you want to do. I'm not trying to say that. I'm trying to say that the things that are obvious, that needs to be done, someone doesn't need to tell you to do that. Such kind of people are self-motivated people, and they take care of their own things pretty seriously. Similarly, it is said, Yasya krutyam na vignanti shita mushram bhayam ratihi samruddhir samruddhirva savai pandita uchyate. As I had mentioned earlier, a pandit's actions are not interrupted by summer or winter, by heat or cold, by neither by the fear of consequences nor by lust. He is not swayed from his path either by riches or poverty. Someone's aspirations are not going to be stuck because he desires something else, or he starts developing feelings for something else. Someone who has the capacity to deal in both line of situations, even during poverty and even during amazing tenures. Such kind of people are called as Pandit. You know what makes them strive? because they have a minimalistic lifestyle. They're not expecting too many things. They are focused on certain things. I've seen, I've heard about a lot of Rishi Munis and heard a lot about some leaders in past 200 years. When they had nothing, they were fine. When they had everything, they were fine. Even this day, I've read and heard about so many leaders who have a very simplistic lifestyle and they're not worried. Not because they have wealth, they don't have wealth, but they have a lot of emotional wealth. They have a lot of spiritual wealth. They might not have that much materialistic wealth. So for them, so many volunteers in the situation that we are facing right now, since March 2020 till this particular date, may it be rains, may it be winter, may it be summer, may it be fear of dying, may it be coldless behaviors of people, maybe if they have money, if they don't have money, mankind has stood for mankind in last 1.5 years, and this is exactly a sign of a pandit. यस्य संसारिणी प्रज्ञा धर्मार्थानुवर्तते कामदार्थम वृणीते यः स वै पंडित उच्यते. He alone is entitled to call a pandit whose worldly wisdom partakes of the twin qualities of dharma and artha, and the one forsaking the path of sensual indulgence takes the road of living like an upright human being. Let me help you understand the difference between Anand. Anand refers to bliss. Bliss is not equal to happiness. Bliss is beyond happiness. Happiness refers to sukha. So sukha is here, Ananda is here. But let me help you understand this concept of Ananda. It's the season of mangoes right now. You have one mango, you will be satisfied. Maybe you have two mangoes, you will feel elated. Maybe you'll have three, you'll feel like, okay, great. You have four mangoes. Maybe you'll be like, okay, have five, six, seven. This is too much. It's exactly like diminishing marginal utility. It doesn't mean that you increase one unit and your happiness is going to increase. Rather, it's going to decline after a point of time. So may it be our physical intimacy, sex, indulgence in liquor, alcohol, smoke, weed, addiction, drugs, could be anything. After a stage, we may not feel the same way about it. It's going to decline over the period of time. And this kind of bliss is called as Vishayananda, wherein we are stuck in the materialistic life of things. And we feel that we are experiencing bliss, but after a point of time, we don't face that bliss anymore. The next, beyond this Vishayananda, comes the Brahmananda, which is generally experienced by people who meditate, people who do penance, people who follow the path of yoga, people who follow the path of Jnana, people who follow the path of Upasana. They feel the Brahmananda. They get the feeling of Brahmasmi. They get the feeling of I am Brahma. They get the sensation of happiness. Bliss, which is way beyond this materialistic bliss that we are talking about. This set of bliss is not restricted of two bodies mating with each other, or we going to a particular trip and we feeling the best enjoyment of it. But this is through more realization of yourself and the divine over there. And beyond that comes the Bhajanananda, which is not experienced by maximum people in this world because they don't fall in love with the source of the universe. And Bhajananand comes through devotion, Bhajananand comes through love, Bhajananand comes through bhajan, that refers to bhakti, that refers to seva. When all of these things happen, when you start worshipping selflessly, that's the time when you face or you experience the Bhajanananda, which is even beyond the Brahmananda, which is beyond realization of yourself. Because now you are deep-rootedly connected with the source of universe, which whose form is nothing but bliss. Sat, Chit, and Ananda. Sat, Chit, and Ananda. Satchidananda. Satchinananda Bhagavan Shri Krishna, which is nothing but pure, who is nothing but pure bliss. I hope this makes you understand the concept of bliss. And since we were talking about yasya samsarini prajna dharmarthanuvartate, here your materialistic brain, your laukik buddhi, your worldly brain is now getting indulged in dharma and artha. And it's not praying about kama. It's not talking about bhoga. It's trying to focus on dharma, because dharma, so that you lead a right life, and artha, which helps you do the right kind of dharma. Very simple example. You doing a jap, taking Lord's name, that's your dharma. You earning money so that you can help someone, that's your dharma. You earning money is artha. You helping someone with that money is dharma. Now, over here, you are not earning money so that you can enjoy your life, so that you can have a lavish lifestyle, so that you can have. I'm not saying those are bad, but let me tell you this point. Until when you'll think about yourself. This is exactly contradictory to what I said earlier. Know yourself. And now I'm saying, until when will you do things for yourself? Then kindly refer to what I had said in the previous session. Paropkararthamidam shariram. This body is to serve others. This body is for benefit of others. This is the difference between the Westerners and the Easterners. The Westerners talk about self to only think of yourself. The Easterners talk about know yourself so that you can serve others in a better way. And this is what I'm talking about. I'm not saying that you getting stuck in karma is bad, but you need to understand your limit. And for once, you need to think beyond yourself, which is going to be beneficial for the people around you. And hence, someone who does purushartha, dharma, artha, kam, and moksha in the right way is considered to be a pandit. Now, some people have a habit of overthinking. We all are in such a fast world that our actions may not be collectively giving us the success that we are expecting. Maybe our efforts are going in a direction, maybe our speed is too slow, maybe others are going too faster than us. And that continuous sense of competitiveness and comparison is actually making us feel like, oh, I'm missing out on something. Now, for such people, and for people who feel like dual thoughts at the same time, they feel this and that, this and that, this and that, this and that. The minute we start controlling our expectations and start acknowledging the fact that the world doesn't revolve around us, the world does what it wants to do, and we are supposed to do what needs to be done, or we are supposed to do in order to achieve what we want without expecting it, but working voraciously towards it. That's the time when our focus is not towards the destination, but towards the process. That's the time overthinking may reduce and eventually step aside, because your purpose towards doing that particular thing is going way faster, way harder, way stronger in comparison to your intent, in comparison to your desire, which is, or in comparison to your expectations, which is saying you may fail, you may not proceed, this is worthless, you shouldn't be doing blah, 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 blah. Overthinking also comes because of our friends. Overthinking also comes because of our past experiences. But just sit with your brain for once and ask, until when would you like to live in a situation that you are in? Once you get tired of that situation, there are two things. Either you are too comfortable in that situation so that you don't want to change that situation, or you want to come out of that situation, and hence you will be taking certain efforts to come out of that situation. And when we talk about overthinking, our past experiences, things being told to us in our childhood, things that we have seen in content as TV and series, our open-ended brain and our open-ended mind that has no leash and it keeps on going left, right, and center is always going to revolve around 20, 30, 40,000 things in a day's time, because we let our mind go somewhere where it shouldn't go, or possibly we need to get some control over our mind. I'm not saying start controlling your thoughts, but start controlling your wanderlust mind, which wants to go to 10,000 places at one go. And that is definitely that we can practice Manas Chanchala Krishna, that is being said by Arjun. And Bhagavan Shri Krishna is definitely giving so many ideas in Srimad Bhagavad Gita to take care of this mind so that we can have a leash on it. We need to unleash the art of working and mastering our mind more than controlling our mind. We come from a land of simple living and high thinking. And since we come from that land of simple living and high thinking, our mind also needs to start believing what we think. It's not mere thoughts, it's assimilation of what we thought and what we feel. The minute that starts happening, our overthinking problems get solved. And this was the number 2 question that came to me. How do we deal with overthinking? It's when our mind is focused on a thing with a purpose that is larger than your self-being or possibly your self-maintenance. That's the time your overthinking will stop, because you're worried about things that are not under your control. And stop controlling your life, rather start taking charge of your life and start embracing situations as they come by. I think that is the truest definition of a Pandit. And for people who are overthinkers, the next verse is absolutely for you. Yatha Shakti Chikirshanti Yatha Shakti Chakurvate Na Kinchidav Manyate Naraha Pandita Buddhayaha. The learned men, deep in their wisdom, know their limitations. They aspire to achieve what is possible within their power and work for the same. For them, no effort, however small, is below their dignity. Let me quote my boss, my founder, one of my mentors at my professional workspace. I work at IID, Indian Institute of Digital Education. One day, I was sitting in the office, I was working on something, and I think I was the second last or the third last person to leave the office that particular night. And apparently my boss was also around there. We were the last ones to leave. Prior to that, he went to each and every office room and ensured that the dust and the leftovers and the tissue paper rolls and the bits and pieces and the litter and loiter were first taken care of. They were dumped in one spot. And I asked him, you are the boss of this organization. Why do you need to do this? He said, if I don't do this, I don't be an example for others. Picking up that piece of trash was not something below his dignity, because he considered his own office something of his own. He considered the employees as families. And he wanted to set an example that if I can do this, anyone can do this. I think that sense of ownership is beyond dignity. You don't worry about what is below your dignity, because you're focused on a better purpose. You're focused on something that is so crucial for you. And hence it is said, people who have wisdom, people who have brains, they work according to their strengths. They know their strengths and they know what they're good at. They know what they can achieve. They know what kind of value addition they can do. They know what kind of experience they bring to the table. When they know such things, they try to achieve things while considering their own strengths. And while achieving those things, they don't consider anything to be extremely small. I would also like to quote one of my other friends. His name is Harsh Mandavya. He runs a restaurant, and during COVID, that this gentleman, along with his mother, used to cook a lot of food and distribute it to people in need. Despite they didn't get donation in the initial days, they still continue doing this act. I'm sorry. After a particular point of time, he was supported by so many people. There were literally more than 100 people waiting for the food packets that he was distributing. He was standing with his mother without being worried of his own life, wearing masks, dual masks, wearing gloves, trying to be as much covered as possible, and yet trying to distribute food during intense COVID days where there were no vaccine, and this guy was on his foot and helping people. These are the people I know. I'm sure you also know so many people. Standing there and helping people was not below his dignity, saying that I am the owner of the restaurant. How can I not? How can I serve people? No, it's not so. And I think similar type of behavior I had seen on the internet from a Westerner concept as well. I think it was one of the topmost social media CEO who said this thing. If you're not treating your janitor equally, possibly you're not a good human being at all. Such is a participative vision of people who have that wisdom. They don't consider these differences. They don't feel such things are below their dignity of greeting someone who's way junior to you. Yatha Shakti cha kurvate. Chikir Shanti. Yatha Shakti cha kurvate. How much ever strength you have, it's on you to apply it. It's on you to utilize it. And hence, there are certain observations that we need to seek. There are certain things that we need to observe. There are a lot of things that we need to learn from our elders, from people who have done humongous amount of work and contribution towards mankind in whatever fields they have been. Referring to the acharyas that from whom we get dikshit, to the gurus whom we listen to the mentors that we take guidance from, to the speakers that you listen to. For example, me, I'm just a very small, I'm not even a tiny piece of contribution to this mankind yet. But yet I'm grateful to people who are listening to me right now. And hence, one of the most amazing verses of Vidur Niti is presented over here. Kshipram vijanati chiram shrunoti vignaya chartham pajate na kamat na samprushto vyupayumte pararthe tat pragnanam prathamam panditasya. The one who is learned, they will listen to a particular topic extremely carefully. They're great listeners. They will be attentive while listening. They will grasp the essence of the topic. Because they have the sense, they can get the essence of the topic. They will take limited amount of time to do all of that. And then he will act extremely firmly in his discretion and not out of emotion. He won't do an act out of rage. He won't do an act out of love. He won't do an act out of anger. He won't do an act out of sadness. He will trust data and the instincts. One of the other questions that I had received today: how do you trust your instincts? First thing, listen and acknowledge the situation that you are in. Second thing, understand what kind of situation you are in. I'm not saying do a deep dive PhD research on it. No, just acknowledge. Just get the idea of what kind of waters are you entering into. Do some homework, do some groundwork, do some research, talk to a certain set of people. Then take your own discretion. but be ready to be committed, accountable, and responsible for your decision. You cannot be blaming others for it. I've learned this a really hard way, my friends. You take a decision, you stand by it, you take charge of that. You fail, you fail. You should be ready to gulp that. And that's the only time where your instinct will stand. Okay, fine, jo hoga dekha jayega. And that's the kind of attitude that we need to develop. Until and unless, how much time would we like to spend on borrowed time and borrowed efforts and borrowed decisions that people make for us? Someday you need to stand up yourself and make those decisions. Even if they're wrong, you learn. And that's what a Pandit is being termed over here. A Pandit listens to situations, analyzes them in quick time, takes his own decision, firm decision, and he's not dependent on emotion at that time. He doesn't attend an irrelevant word or tender an opinion about unless and until it is required. And this is the beauty of big people. They don't speak unnecessarily. And unfortunately, our generation keeps on yanking about things that they are not bothered about, or keeps on yanking about things that is bothering them continuously, but they never take any decision or any efforts to actually solve them. And since we are not taking any efforts to solve those particular situations, how do we expect to grow? These are the kind of realizations Vidur is giving to Dhritarashtra, that you are a stupid person, that you're giving your I'm sorry, he hasn't mentioned stupid directly. I am saying that how come Dhritarashtra as a person could just give away the entire reign of decision making to people who are so ill bothered about the well-being? A lot of mythologists say that Duryodhan was Duryodhan. Okay, he was extremely greedy. He had no love for the spirit of law. He had no love for spirit of dharma. He had no love for spirit of spirituality. He talks things. He is the guy who keeps on throwing tantrums, and then the tantrum needs to be fulfilled, and then his ego needs to be fulfilled. And that's why Karna, whom he supported for once, Duryodhana had his vested interest, and Karna felt that he's one of my best friends, and blah 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 blah. It's all crap. Arjun, during his time of Vanvas, had to stay away from his family. He wasn't going around every now and then and crying about, oh, I have a Vanvas, oh, I have a Vanvas. He was striving hard to gather skill and gather weapons so that he could fight a war which was going to be inevitable over a period of time. And for people who don't believe in their instincts, here's one more situation that you need to know. Apatsu chana muhyanti naraha pandita buddhayaha. The wise do not aspire for the unattainable. They do not grieve for what is lost. Misfortune doesn't rattle them down. They don't have unrealistic expectations. And one of the worst situations is when we start daydreaming about people, about situations, about feelings, and about things that are not actually real. They're unattainable. It's unimaginative. Now, a lot of people say dream big, dream unachievable. You should never limit yourself. No one is asking you to limit yourself. But don't expect someone's wife to marry you, or don't expect someone's husband to marry you, or don't expect something out of the box. Miracles happen, but you can't just wait your entire life for miracles to happen. You are supposed to do your purushartha. You are supposed to do what is relevant to you. You are supposed to do and perform your own duty. And hence, you will never be bothered about or aspire something that is unattainable for you. And you'll never be grieving for something that is lost. Past, it's gone. You were thin, it's gone. You had a girlfriend, it's gone. You had money, it's gone. Your life was miserable, it's gone. You had toxic friends, they're gone. You had toxic relationships, they're gone. Someone betrayed you, that's gone. Feel it, move on, move ahead. Until when will we stay in the books of past and grieve about things that we have lost? We are actually losing time now while grieving about the past. And such people do not get stuck because of misfortune. They fail, they rise. They succeed, they learn, they do things, they rise. They fail, they rise. Jarasandh failed 17 times to kill Krishna and Balram. Came every time with a sena, with an army, with a mission to kill them. Though Lord is Lord. 17 times. Can you imagine this? 17 times you have the guts to fight against the Nayak of the world, someone who's the source of the universe. I must say Jarasandh might have a lot amount of courage within him. You should be in a space to see good things even in negative people. You need to have that gunagrahya drashti. You need to have that sense of finding strengths and good things even from the bad things. Had that not been the situation, the lotus would have never grown in the mud. Ever. Ever. And hence, when you are starting anything, you need to have firm mindset. Nishchitya yah prakramate nanta varsati karmanah. Nishchitya yah prakramate nantar vasati karmanah. Abandhya kalo vashyatma savai pandita uchyate. We call him a pandit who has made up his mind before taking up a project. Thereafter, he works relentlessly and does not stop midway, although he has exercised his control over the mind. While doing all of these, he has exercised his control over mind. Including me, a lot of people face issues while focusing on certain things. I even had a debate today about focusing on things. Focusing on things requires one to actually forget things that are going around them. Sorry. Given this situation, I would like to narrate a small story before I end this session. Dronacharya, what Dronacharya was teaching Pandava and Kauravas. Pandavas and Kauravas were learning archery at that given point of time. They were learning how to use bow and arrow, and there was a small bird which was placed at the branch of the tree, and one by one people were being called, and they were asked by Dronacharya, what are you looking at? What can you see? Some people said, I can see the sky. Some people said, I can see the bird. Some people said, I can see the leaf. Some people said, I can see the tail. Some people said, I can see the sun. Some people said, a lot of variations came by. But then Arjun comes and Arjun says, Guruji, I can see only the eye of the bird. That's the time where Dronacharya requests or permits to Arjun to shoot that eye. And this is that concept of laser focusedness. We need to be focused. We need not worry about the outcome. Honestly saying, while I'm shooting these things, I'm going through a rigorous 9 to 10 hour corporate job. I have signed up for a different course where I'm trying to study more about Vedanta. I have certain assignments pending for the professional course that I'm doing at the same time. I was really concerned about this. I got some great amount of advice as well, to which I had some counter arguments, saying that if I focus on that, something else is bothering, something else is I'm focusing on, and something else is bothering. But let me tell you my personal experience. While I was delivering this session to you all, I was extremely focused on you. I was only and only thinking about the session right now. And it was a great experience for me because I was extremely happy while saying all these things to you. And since I was saying all these things to you, I was pretty much enjoying. And while I was enjoying, I realized if we get engrossed in what we love, we will never bother about losing focus. And this is one of the last questions that I had received today in terms of how and what can I do to focus better. Having said that, I rest my session over here. I will thank Girish Bhai Dresswala on behalf of Prem Puri Ashram Trust to call me for this web series. We have heard the session 4. Let's wait for the session 5 and see what miracles can come in our life. Shubham Bhavatu. Krishna Arpanamastu.